when people realize that there are 75 plus breweries in the state, and they read just kind of the relentless articles about beer and the growth of craft beer, both in Maine and nationally, they get a sense that the Maine Brewers Guild, when they find out that we're the trade association representing them all, is this big, organization. And the truth is, it's just one dude.
Hey all, Amanda here, and welcome to Entry 53 of our Great Beer Adventure. It is now official. We have made it to a year. Woohoo! It has been such an amazing ride. We have been able to learn so much about beer and all of the industries that support it. I have met so many amazing people, from my co-hosts to all of the fabulous guests that we have had on. For our first birthday, I am giving us a bit of a makeover. We have new cover art, the website is getting redone, and you may have noticed that we have new music. This music was custom made for us by Frank Marvici of Marvici Media. I asked for something with a bit of a Johnny Cash feel, mixed in with some Tinkerbell and Alice in Wonderland, as if they were all going to a campfire and having a beer. How do you think he did? I love it. We have also changed some of the social media handles. We are going by @GreatBeerAdventure on Instagram and @GreatBeerADV on Twitter. A few things are definitely not changing, however. You can still find us at greatbeeradventure.com, and we are still going to be telling you stories bigger than just the beer we are drinking. In today's episode, we sit down with Sean Sullivan of the Maine Brewers Guild and have a nice chat to celebrate our birthday. We headed over to a place that has much more history in the Maine beer scene than we do, Gary's Brewing Company. Hey everybody, we are sitting at a picnic table at Gary's Tasting Room. Gary's, not Gritty's, although they're both very much Maine historical breweries and they're amazing. And I am sitting here today with my lovely co-host Jane, and we are joined today with Sean Sullivan of the Maine Brewers Guild. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Our birthday.
I'm happy to be here. Happy birthday.
Thanks. We're technically one, but I feel like we're so much older than that.
Let's call it 21.
Sounds good. We're just going to jump over the first 20. Yeah, that sounds good. So we're just going to be drinking some beers and kind of chatting. It's been amazing to be here in Maine. I was racking my head about what kind of show we should have. Everybody in the podcasting world is always like, live shows. And they made my, throat close up a little bit. The idea of trying to have to deal with all of that. And I just can't do a live show. I apologize, but I can't do it.
That was the beauty of a podcast.
Is it doesn't have to be live?
Yeah.
I like it that way. Yeah.
This is live and then edited.
Right.
And then you get to listen to it whenever you want. And then
let's make it lively. How about we make it lively?
Ooh, nice. I like that. And then it came like that we should have some kind of party, but that sounds like a horrible way to actually edit too. And then I was like, maybe we should go on a beer tour, which would be really fun. But again, editing would just, all those things made me feel like I couldn't breathe.
If we had a crew.
Right. A little panic attack slightly. So we're having a very quiet, intimate affair with Sean Sullivan, who represents the Maine Brewers Guild so wonderfully.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's
Thank you.
Easy group to represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger.
It's getting a lot bigger.
A lot bigger.
Geez, I'm not even 3 years in, and in that time we've added 30-plus breweries, almost doubled it. It's crazy. It's growing in all corners of the state, too, which is fun.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of makes it amazing here in Maine, is that there is a very large concentration in Portland, but also there's a large concentration of people here. But there are breweries everywhere you go now here in the state.
Yeah, there really are. I think we're heading more towards that model where kind of every community has their local brewery. And, even there are really small towns that have breweries right now, but most of the bigger communities around the state now have a brewery. And in Maine, a bigger community is like 20,000 people or more. So, yeah.
Yeah. I heard, though, that Augusta, our state capital, does not have a brewery yet.
Huh.
Yet, I guess, is the key word.
Is there one coming?
I always think of Hallowell, with Run of the Mill there.
True.
And the owner, Jeff, he and his wife just opened up a beer bar next door, too, which is really neat. So I always think of Hallowell as so connected to Augusta.
Yep.
I guess I kind of know the Strip in Augusta, but is there a walking downtown area? I confess, I don't know. I spent a lot of time at the State House, and I know the route from 295 or 95 to the State House, but I don't know.
I'm pretty ignorant of Augusta.
There's a bagel place that I used to stop at.
Great bagel place, and in that same shopping plaza, there's a company called Funeral Alternatives.
Huh.
And,
wow.
And I always wonder, what is the alternative to a funeral? Anyway.
Yeah, you should stop in and ask them.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. Or ma'am. What is this alternative
They
you
say
speak
it's
of?
a dying business model.
Cha. We shouldn't talk about such morbid things on such a happy occasion.
Sorry.
It's all right. So a lot has even happened right in this past year. So when we started this a year ago, I think we've added like 10, 12 breweries since then.
Yeah, I believe that.
What's the total number now?
I'm saying 77 right now. It's always, believe it or not, it's a hard question to answer. It depends on how you want to define it. Sebago has 5 locations, for example. Do you count every single one of them as one? So that includes all the brewery licenses that the government has issued here in the state. That's how I define it. So I say we're at about 77.
So does that mean Sebago has 1 or 5 brewery
5
licenses?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I always wondered why on the brewers, because you guys do the brewing trail.
Yeah, Beer Trail, Maine Beer Trail.
Yeah. I was always wondering why there was like, Oxbow has 2 and Sebago. So it's...
Yeah, and I think, we'll accept them if people visit one of each of kind of that brewery's name. That's okay. We certainly want people to check them out, but more than anything, we just want people to be aware of if there's a brewery nearby, So rather than just list Sebago as their Gorham Brewery or their Gorham Brew Pub or Portland Brew Pub, we just want to list them all because if you're,
Right, you want people to know where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. More than anything, I hope people use that as something to just keep in the car, and if they find themselves in a different corner of Maine, they can just reference it and see it. I'd love to have the Gazetteer, the Lorem Gazette. Every Mainer should have a Gazetteer in their car, right? I'd love to have that, have little brewery symbols or something.
That would be fabulous.
That's Vision 2020 for the Guild.
Well, I think the problem with that is the Gazetteer is kind of
large
and not in everybody's car.
Yeah.
You need like the digital Gazetteer.
I know. Digital Get Down. Do
you have an app yet?
We don't have an app yet. Boy, I bet you I get 1 email a week from someone who has a Beer Trail app that they want to sell us. It's
That's not where I expected the sentence to go.
Definitely other states have taken a leap and gotten an app or created an app. And it's something we're always looking at, and I think we'll end up with one in the future. But the truth of it is, it costs as much. It would cost as much to create an app as it does for us to print all the beer trails every year. And you still have to update it, and you have to, constantly pay someone to make sure that it works with the new iOS or, the new Android software. So there's a lot more maintenance to it than I think most people imagine. But the ultimate conclusion that we came to is, if you've visited other places for beer or just on travel generally, have you ever, downloaded like a Miami app, to find you around the city? Or are you just Googling like restaurants, Miami?
Right. You Yelp or around you. Or
Yeah, and so I think if we eliminate the paper beer trail, it kind of takes away from that serendipity, that serendipitous experience. Like when you're at the rest stop because you just need to go to the bathroom on 295 and you're headed up for a wedding weekend, and then you're waiting for your significant other, you see beer trail and you pick it up and you're like, oh my goodness, there's beer. I don't know how you'd get that if you were just on your phone.
The only only travel one specific to the location that I've been to is when I went to Disney, I downloaded 3 different Disney apps.
Got it.
2 of them were for beer places. Yeah, there's like Beers and Ears or something.
The Magical Kingdom.
Yeah.
You're
The
such a
Magical
good
Kingdom.
mom.
I love Disney, but it's so much more amazing now that I know that there's beer too. And it's just like, you get to search out all the beer while you're down there too. Like Jai Alai, you can find where that is. And
Take note, parents.
yeah, you can jump on the monorail and you can head over to the Polynesian, and they have got alcohol. Don't worry if you're at Magic Kingdom, because Magic Kingdom doesn't have alcohol.
Got it.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's the only one, the only park that doesn't, actually. Disneyland doesn't unless you go into some special private club. But yeah, California Adventure and all of the non-Disney world, like the Magic Kingdom places, all have alcohol. Yeah. There's some great... Back on topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the only travel ones that I've ever really downloaded.
Yeah, I think, we'll probably do one. It's just taking some time. It's not like we're all Luddites and we don't want it to happen. We just... I like the physical part of the beer trail as well, and I think it's a cool experience and kind of, it's fun to get them sent in when they're kind of, they've got the
beer marks.
Yeah,
on
the
them?
beer marks, and they're a little scuffed up and the dog-eared corners and everything, and it kind of, I am able, as a person who sends you out the hats, am able to kind of get a sense of the adventure that they have, and to me that's pretty cool. And
the great beer adventure that they have.
The great beer adventure that they've had. Now available on the iTunes podcast.
Absolutely. Just as a note, I have still yet to get my Maine Brewers Guild hat.
Did you send in your beer trail?
I don't know. I've got like 7 beer trail maps, all with different places marked on them, because I always forget. That's my thing, is I always forget to bring them with me, and then I'll pick up a new one. And it happens like that at the coffee shops when you're like the frequent coffee person.
Definitely.
And I have to take in like 5.
We get people mailing in a chunk of them, and that's totally fine. People can mail in the old ones, and always happy to accept them. It's we're pretty generous as far as what we do, but I know a guy who can get you a Maine Brewers Guild hat, so let me put in a good word.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Please do. Yes. Yeah, I actually do the Googling whenever we're out in Maine. I'm like, what is near us? We need good beer. So my first stop is always, I don't have your website address saved in my phone, but I Google Maine Beer Trail every time. Like it just it knows what I want.
So maybe that's an argument for the app then.
Yeah, you'd have to have like on your mobile website like a ticker at the top that says "Get our app" or something.
I think a lot of what you're saying is true, and we need to make some improvements. Like our website, for example, is something I think it was created about 10 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, it is pretty.
We haven't really updated it. Well, we've updated it, but the whole layout and everything, it doesn't look like a very modern website. I think when people realize that there are 75 plus breweries in the state, and they read just kind of the relentless articles about beer and the growth of craft beer, both in Maine and nationally, they get a sense that the Maine Brewers Guild, when they find out that we're the trade association representing them all, is this big, organization. And the truth is, it's just one dude, and and it's a volunteer board of directors, and we're bootstrapped operation. And just 2 years ago, our whole annual budget, everything included, from beer trail printing to salaries to everything, was, we're looking at small dollars, so like the cost of a new Honda kind of thing, really small dollars. So we're still really, even though the whole craft beer community and industry in the state's really growing, we're still growing as well. And we're soon to be hiring a second person, and that will definitely help and give us some more room to update the websites on my list of things to do. So we're excited about the future, but we're still kind of building up the foundation and framework for our entire organization to have the biggest impact that we can for our brewers.
Yeah. Is there any kind of so you're the Maine Brewers Guild. Is there any kind of national Brewers Guild?
Yeah, so there's the Brewers Association. We don't pay dues to them as the guild, and we don't have a formal relationship with them, but the Brewers Association is the National Craft Beer Trade Association, and they have, the majority of brewers in the country are members, and they do pay dues to be a member, and the Brewers Association in the past few years has made it their goal to establish a guild in every state, which they've been successful doing, and they do bring together the guild leaders from around the country pretty regularly to have conversations about how, best practices for kind of growing the organization, ensuring that the industry can be promoted and protected, So the guild kind of works on two levels: promoting, acting as a spokesperson in the media and putting on events to connect people to our brewers and community. And on the legislative front, on the protection front, promote and protect. On the protection front, we're working. Most alcohol laws are at the state level, so we work at the state house to both try to stop laws that might hurt our industry and also push laws that might help our industry. So we have some advice from the National Trade Group, and what's really cool is actually Rob Todd of Allagash is the chairman and of the board of the Brewers Association. Dan Kleben, owner of Maine Beer Company, is also on the Brewers Association Board of Directors. So we've got some pretty serious sway here in Maine. In fact, last year, the whole Board of Directors, which is owners of some of the most notable breweries in the country, came to Maine and had a board meeting here, which was really cool, and then went to the American Homebrewers Association rally at Maine Beer Company.
Wow.
Sweet.
Next
Wow.
time that happens, if you need any wait staff, let me know so I can just be a fly on the wall.
It was awesome. The Homebrew Rally had hundreds of people.
Really?
In the brew house. I think unless you're on that AHA mailing list, you might
Right.
not have heard about it, but it was cool. I mean, some of the legends of craft beer were present there.
It's fantastic. I think that it makes more sense to me as a consumer if all of the state Brewers Guild sent their information to the national one, so then made an app at the national level.
Yeah.
Because for me, we live so close to New Hampshire and Vermont and then we go to Mass enough that there would be 4 apps right there. Whereas if I could just have one and be able to travel anywhere I want to, that would be fantastic. It'd be like, have you guys ever gone geocaching? There's that great app that tells you where there's treasures, quote unquote, hidden in the woods. My kids love it.
Yeah.
But if you could pop up your app and it would be look, there is one that's 5 miles from you. You'd be like, honey, I found a treasure.
I like geocaching for adults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's
the workaround is we just have a whole system, one geocache at every brewery, and then you already have an app made for it.
I think it's a great idea, and there are definitely some companies that have done beer trail apps for other states that are trying to kind of make that play and do multiple. The industry's just growing so fast. It's hard, even for the Brewers Association, to try and keep track of who's open, who's closing, who's about to open, who's trying to open. I think it's a really challenging time. It's the same kind of thing with the laws.
Yeah.
It's when an industry is changing so quickly, it's really hard to figure out a law that's going to work for the current situation, the past situation, and also, more importantly, the future.
Yeah, Carla Lauder, the beer babe, she's very, on a regular basis, she'll put up some posts I think there's 75 breweries, and these are the ones that I think are going to be opening up soon. And it's, she has her, finger right on the pulse, and she doesn't even know here in the state. Because, it's always, everything's moving so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And, there's no kind of public notification when someone gets a brewer's license. Brewer's notice is what they call it from the federal government. And so it's hard to keep track because there are, and most people do reach out to the guild. And we like to help people who are seriously planning to open a brewery and connect them with folks who can help them out and ensure that, they'll make great beer and be able to take care of their business. But there are still plenty of people who totally are going it alone and flying completely under the radar and haven't yet appreciated how much other brewers can help them grow their business, and it makes sense, because if you were opening up a restaurant, you're not necessarily going to go to the nearest 5 restaurants and say, I'm going to open up and I'm going to compete against you in the future, but can you just tell me all these different things about how to run my business? It's a crazy concept, but that's how collaborative our industry is. And once they join the guild and they attend a couple of our events and they meet some of the fellow brewers, all of a sudden their eyes are open and they end up becoming a really key part of our community. So
I do really love that about the beer world here in Maine. We actually have an episode coming up very shortly with Liquid Riot, who does a lot of collaborations. And I think that's so great that, you go and you talk to people, and you're not going to make it anyways if you're trying to be the next Bissell Brothers. You have to go out doing your own thing. So if you are looking for help and you go to talk to somebody else, you're not really stepping on their toes, because you have to be yourself or it's not going to work. There's just way too many breweries here.
Definitely. And I get the question all the time, like, are there too many breweries in Maine? Can Maine really support it? But we absolutely can. And, it's for so many different reasons, but also because craft beer consumers don't just want to drink one brewery's beer. They want to try beer from a bunch of different breweries. It'd be like if you committed to a single style of juice or something for the red. Like, I'm only going to drink Tropicana OJ. It's like, well, I don't know. You'd want to kind of mix it up a little bit. And but craft beer consumers aren't as kind of brand loyal necessarily as the kind of macro beer drinkers.
Right.
They're definitely quality. Yeah. And they also, often want what's fresh and what's new. And
I was having a conversation with somebody today. His first question to me was actually my electrical inspector. We've been going back and forth for a while. We finally passed our electrical inspection.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent.
But he walks down into my office and says, "So when's Foulmouth going to open?" And I was like, well, they've been brewing, so I would say soon, but I haven't gotten they don't call me up and be like, "Hey, Amanda, how's it going? We're going to be opening on X date." Like, I don't get that phone call. I just go and stalk people. But then then we were having this whole conversation about, how much different beer drinkers are today than they used to be, and how so many laws and ordinances. Somebody the other day was also saying that back when he was a kid, the only person that ever drank beer was your uncle that kind of had a problem, and that's totally not the case now. Now it's, my husband and I take our little girls to breweries all the time, and we, it's more of a culture and a family, and that's what I really love about doing this podcast and being here in Maine, is that it feels like we're part of something.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and I feel the same exact way. I remember when I was in college and I was thinking about where to live afterwards, and someone tried to swing me towards Portland, and they said, what you need to understand about Maine and Portland is there's a really great community. And I got to admit, as a college senior, I was like, what the does that mean? Yeah, cool, great community, thumbs up, sounds great.
Thanks,
What do you really mean by that? And pretty much wrote it off. And now I live in Maine. I hear myself saying out loud to people like, the best part about Portland and Maine is it's just a great community. But the truth is, I think that manifests itself in a lot of different ways here in Maine. Whether that's not cutting someone off in the while you're waiting at the stoplight when it goes green, because chances are the person, or if you don't know them, they might know you, or your cousin or your brother. To just being friendly with folks, walking around the sidewalk, saying hello to your neighbors. But in the craft beer community, it's opening your doors to competitors. It's stopping by and helping where you can. It's trading raw materials. It's selling old pieces of equipment or, new pieces of equipment that weren't the right fit for your brewery, whatever the case may be. And I totally agree with you. And my favorite part about this job. I really feel like I'm part of something special here in Maine. And not only that, but beer, what our brewers do using these raw materials, working with local contractors, kind of prioritizing, a connection to a place, helping to revitalize some of these more depressed areas and little, block by block kind of communities, a city. It's a really, there's a positive aspect to this whole industry that I think often gets overlooked when you're just staring at a beer in a glass. But these are people who want to contribute and want to give back. The easiest way I can describe it is there's nobody who is in the beer industry that's working the beer industry just because they needed a job. They're all doing it because they want to do it. Right. And that itself kind of creates a platform where everybody is excited, showing up to work, and wants to contribute to others. So
yeah, it's a passion. It's an art. It's not just the bad beer that our parents and grandparents were drinking in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
In Maine, 80s.
Yeah, picking up
80s.
Picking up a Miller's a product. It's a transaction.
Right.
Going to a local bar and getting a beer brewed by someone who you've met before at a place and location in a neighborhood that you're familiar with, using materials that were grown in state, fermented in tanks that were welded by your neighbor. I mean, that's an experience. And I think when you can Google just about anything in the world, the bull radar is really high for the average consumer these days, and they want something that's authentic. And Maine's kind of made its name on that authenticity, and beer just fits beautifully into the brand that Maine has already created, and the people who are getting involved in it are just utterly committed to, building on that. And that's awesome.
I completely agree with the whole Made in Maine sentiment. LL Bean started it, and there is this whole thing when you go out into the world, and some people may not geographically know where Maine is, but, here in the U.S. at least, if it's a Made in Maine product, from the Maine lobsterman to LL Bean, everybody has heard of Maine somehow, and there is a lot of positive connotation behind that. And for me, Portland as a whole is very artistic and creative, and I love how the most random industries play off each other, and I just think that it's so much fun to watch them interact. And I don't know, we recently had a bunch of podcasters together, and there are 5 different Maine beer podcasts that have nothing to do with each other. And it's just crazy how different people can look at the same exact thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think we need a beer. So we're going to pause for a minute, go grab some beer. This is a birthday after all, right? We need to celebrate. And we'll be right back. Hey folks, in studio Amanda here, and I wanted to take just a quick second to tell you about a great event we are putting on. We are partnering up with the Maine Beer Tours to host Camp Azaka Hops, a 2-night sleepaway camp for women. It will take place this fall and include a lot of beer-centric activities, including yoga, homebrewing, and of course, drinking. If you or an awesome beer drinking lady would like more information, join our Facebook group by heading to greatbeeradventure.com/camp. Now, back to mid-interview, Amanda. All right, so I think we are going to jump right back in, and it has been lovely sitting and talking with you. We have another round. You guys got, safe, quote-unquote, safe beer. I got this beer that's freaking the crap out of me. I know. It shouldn't be something that I'm scared of, but the words ghost and pepper together scare me so much. I can't. I know. It was only recently that I was able, you get the big pile of nachos and you, flick all the jalapenos off. It was just recently that I stopped flicking them off. Like last week recently.
Well, there comes a time in every person's life, Amanda. For most people, they call it adulthood, and that's where you can start to tolerate spicy foods. So I think, your ghost pepper porter there. Look, Geary's world-class porters, period, end discussion. They're mixing it up, trying something new here. You got to trust them. You got to trust. These are the experts.
Brittany, is that her name? Bethany? Brittany. Bethany. Oh, I was going to go with Bethany, and then I was like, no, I'm wrong. And then you should never second guess yourself. I know. Bethany said that they added like powdered ghost peppers. So it wasn't even the oils, I guess she was saying. I don't know, but it still scares me. I know it shouldn't.
You're talking about this way too much.
Jane's stealing it, taking a sip. Okay.
Wow. It definitely has a little kick to it.
I'm so much more prepared
Not
now.
a scary kick, but a kick. Wow.
Oh, it's it's
Doesn't hit you till afterwards.
no, but then it's like you breathe it. And I feel like I feel like I could be a dragon right now and just blow fire out of my mouth.
Mother of dragons.
Yeah,
If only we had
That
some
was
chocolate, that would help.
that might help with some salt on it.
Helps everything. I feel like whatever the situation was right there, you would have suggested the same thing.
Yeah.
This is too bitter. Chocolate would help. This made me cry. Chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate
You're
would help.
annoying me, but chocolate would help.
Aw, Jane.
No, I don't mean you're
Right,
annoying
no,
me.
you're
I know.
not. Right,
I
yeah,
meant like
mhm.
an example
Sure.
of things that make better. Things
Right.
that are made better with chocolate. Not you personally.
I'll let it
You're
go
being
this time.
paranoid. Chocolate would help.
Okay, so we're going to be in our second year. A couple changes are coming.
Ooh.
We have brand new artwork, which some of you may have not realized that this episode was our episode because it has new artwork. But surprise, it's still us. And I feel like it's a little bit more Maine. It's definitely more, I don't know. I think it's pretty, but not so pretty that it's going to scare guys away.
Frou-frou.
It's not
Fluffy.
frou-frou and fluffy. I don't know. You saw it.
Looks
what
great.
do you think?
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Speaks to the location.
Are you scared because it feels
No,
too girly?
I'm not scared.
Okay, good.
I prefer it to your existing graphics.
Yes. We grew up a little bit. That's what I feel like. It's
Year
a
two.
grown-up version of our podcast. See, I'm an adult. I drank spicy drinks. Ooh.
Yeah, excellent.
So with that, we're also going to change up some of our rounds just slightly. Our final round last year was that, right? It was last year. Was 3 sheets to the wind, 3 random questions. But instead, we're going to do something slightly different where we have a pile of random questions. And we're each going to ask each other one of them. So Sean's actually going to ask one of us a question.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Now, had you already taken those out of there?
no, I'm magic, Jane. Jane, do you need me to drive you home?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Just an observation.
All right, so I'll let you pick. We're going to go just in a circle. Do you want to ask Sean or you want to ask me? It'll dictate the way the circle goes.
So in other words, do I want to go clockwise or counterclockwise?
Sure.
I'm feeling counter.
Okay. So pick one and then just one, Jane. Some of them are silly, and some of them are not so silly.
How many pairs of shoes do you own? It's probably better that I didn't ask you.
Do boots count?
I don't know. Sure. This is a hard question.
Yeah.
So wouldn't counterclockwise be, Sean?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I own 2 pairs of shoes, 3 pairs of boots, and a pair of flip-flops. I don't think I've bought a pair of shoes or boots in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some good flip-flops.
Yeah. Rainbows. Leather. They last.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I always have to buy at least 1 pair of new flip-flops a year.
I could use a new pair of running shoes for sure. They're
Yeah.
getting a little.
Definitely need a new pair of sneakers.
I'm not much of a shopper.
No.
Does your wife shop?
She shops enough for both of us.
He timed that so that hopefully the truck would muffle that as it was driving by. Okay. So, Sean's turn. You're going to be asking me.
Pick a card, any
Any
card.
card.
Amanda, if there's an exception to every rule, is there an exception to that rule?
I hoped when I wrote that down that I would never get that question. Because, I mean, I think if you think about it logically, there couldn't be an exception to the rule that says that every rule has an exception. I can't even say the word that many times in one sentence.
Inception.
Inception. That's basically what it is inception. I don't know. This one completely confuses my brain. I don't think that it possibly could, because that would mean that there would be a rule that never has an exception. Then yes, my answer is yes, that there is an exception to that rule.
Judges?
I'll go with that.
Your answer has been accepted.
Okay, awesome, because that was a really strange roundabout way of getting to an answer. All right, ready, Jane?
Uh-huh.
All right. How long of a consecutive time have you spent in a car?
Meaning without getting out, like, to pee or anything?
I guess so. I just went onto this website that's like 100 random questions, and I just started writing some down. And that was one of them. I really need to spend some more time researching these, but I was like, these seem obscure and random. They'd be perfect for our random questions round.
So I was in college, and we drove to Florida, and we just kept rotating. Like, we didn't stop, and...
Use the restroom?
Well, yeah, we did stop, but we did stop to pee. We didn't pee in the car. But we didn't stay overnight anywhere. I mean, I've driven across the country.
Yeah.
But consecutive makes me feel like, yeah, you don't get out of the car.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a very large bladder.
So 2 minutes.
A couple hours.
Huh. I don't know why, but I seem to have a number of friends recently that like pee in cups in cars, and I don't get it. I feel like that was something like when you were younger, you maybe kind of did.
I heard it's a problem with truckers, and they throw them on the side of the road. I just read an article about how they were putting up signs in some state because they're having an issue picking up so many empty or non-empty Gatorade bottles and stuff like that.
Really? Well, what kind of sign do you put up for that?
No public throwing of your pee allowed?
No public throwing of your...
They're yellow signs. I know that. I know that much.
They're yellow. That's really, really a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once
So
fell
strange.
asleep in Oregon and woke up in South Dakota with a friend who was driving.
Wow.
And we had a truck with a, I don't know what you call it, one of those kind of RVs that sits in the bed of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And so you could go and sleep in the back while the other person drove. You could go to the bathroom. You could take a shower while you were driving down the road.
I was going to say,
so
wow.
it was awesome. We were driving cross country from initially Los Angeles up to Portland, Oregon, and then across to Maine.
Wow. Furthest I've ever gone in a car is down to Florida, but I was young, and I got yelled at a lot because as a young child driving all the way like down to Florida, you're like, are we there yet? No, we're in New Hampshire.
That's why my parents gave me Dramamine.
Yeah.
That's why my parents drugged me.
Parenting 301. Yeah, fantastic.
And also so I wouldn't throw up in the car.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. I don't do well with long drives.
It's a fun thing that could work for the podcast that I like to ask people when... So somebody gets back from some crazy trip, like, I just took a motorcycle down the length of Africa. And you're at a party. You can't really expect that they can give you a sense of what that trip was like in a 5-minute conversation. So one thing I've learned to ask is, give me the 5 senses take on your trip. So if you think about doing the 5 senses take on where we are right now or any place, just to set the stage for where people are. Where you're recording the thing. So
yeah.
What are you smelling right now? What are you feeling right now? There you go.
All right, go.
It's a pretty cool breeze. You can hear the leaves rustling, which is a nice thing that we don't hear for many months of the year in Maine.
We finally have leaves, yeah.
The table here is black, but it's got a lot of pollen on it. And in fact, a lot of the cars sitting around have a lot of pollen. A little bit of pine in the air from all the pine trees we're under. I'm pretty good temperature-wise, The table is freshly shellacked.
We were actually talking about that off air, like so freshly that there's a couple pine needles that Sean and I have OCD'd over.
That's right.
Look at that.
the pollen really shows them up pretty seriously. So smell, touch. I'm drinking Geary's Pale, which is one of the first beers I fell in love with for sure, and to this day one of my favorites. And so you get the malty sweetness out of that. So I guess that's a secondary smell. How do I feel? I feel
Let's
good.
get down to emotions.
I feel good. Could use a couple more beers. And I feel you.
You have to get to your nighttime location, and then you'll be feeling really good.
Really good.
Like I read on the back of a shirt recently, beer makes you feel the way you should feel without beer.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
We have done absolutely no format today whatsoever. But generally speaking, we ask about your first beer memory. And I don't feel like it would be really fair to our audience if we left without asking you that. You mentioned you fell in love with the pale ale, but I would love to know a little bit more about that first beer memory that you have.
My first legal beer memory.
It doesn't
I know
have
people,
to be legal.
I know people have headed in different directions here. You know, I was 21 my freshman year of college, and I went to school in England prior to that, so I was able to drink prior. So I drank a fair amount of kind of English bitters over there, but honestly I was drinking more hard alcohol. And then when I got to college, no hard alcohol allowed. But my 21st birthday, I went out to Steamboat Springs where my brother was living at the time, and my first legal beer, my first kind of real beer memory was drinking a Fat Tire Amber Ale from New Belgium Brewing Company at the ice bar at the bottom of the slope in Steamboat Springs.
Wow.
And I still have that bottle. In fact, it was a 22 ounce, and they gave you the bottle, which was awesome. And maybe they just gave me the bottle because it was my 21st birthday, and I made a big stink over it.
They gave everybody the bottle. They're like, no, we did not. You needed chocolate.
And
so
then
we
I
gave you a
woke
bottle.
up. My brother had a house on a ridge line, and I woke up to the loudest noise I've ever woken up to, and I was catching an early flight, and I thought I missed my flight. But there was a hot air balloon that was having trouble staying up in the air, so it was the noise, the noise of the guy desperately trying to get it above the level so he could make it over the ridge line there. So, yeah, my first beer memory also led into my first hangover memory, my first hungover flight memory. So
Those
it was a good one. It was a good one. But to this day, we don't get New Belgium here in Maine, but to this day, that they have a soft spot in my heart, and they're also a pretty awesome brewery in terms of what they do on the environmental front and things like that, which personally is important to me as well.
Have you heard of Periscope?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on a Periscope, and somebody was at the New Belgium Brewery, and they have this amazing table in the middle of their, I think it's their tasting room. It's all part of their brewery. It's all, I don't know, there's like different levels or whatever. But they have this amazing table where the top is glass, and they have all of these sections underneath it with different memorabilia from the brewery. And so I actually made my desk after that, watching New Belgium's somebody Periscope from there.
Nice. So did you put like coasters and things on a desk and then shellac over it? Or what do you, when you say it's
like
different things from the brewery? Pieces?
Yeah, so the table, I don't know how thick, but like the one I made is actually 3 inches thick, and there's an opening underneath the glass. And so I have some beer bottles in there, but mine's mainly like a pair of Minnie Mouse ears, my Harry Potter wand, my baby's baby hats when they were little. But just like memorabilia under a piece of glass, so you can use that kind of as a tabletop. Cool. Yeah, it was a gorgeous brewery. Like I have to get out there and see it in person.
I've never been, but definitely on my list as well. I haven't done the full Colorado brewery tour, circuit or anything. There's a lot of places on my list. I'm the lucky guy who gets to go to all the breweries in Maine every year, so I definitely get my fill, my fair share, which is awesome. But certainly go checking out breweries whenever I'm out of town as well.
I need I need to go a little bit further, I think. And that's what we're doing in our second year. We're actually going and... So phase 1 was to take Maine by storm. And phase 2 is to take over the world.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Pinky?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me what you were saying about all the artifacts. That reminds me of Awesome Onion headline, The Onion,
Yeah.
satirical newspaper. And it was something like, local college student thinks, if my charms and good looks don't impress her, surely my wall of empty beer cans will.
Yeah. One of my other jobs that I do, I've got like 7 of them. Only a couple of them pay. One of them actually is, I know, there's something wrong with that. One of them is to do Maine beer tours. And sometimes if we're running a little bit ahead of schedule, we do trivia. And there's a question, what do you call a person that collects beer cans? And
A drunk?
that's one of the answers. A hoarder is another one.
College student.
College student. Yeah. And there's actually a technical name for it that nobody ever knows, but they always come up with some great, like, not even one-liners, they're one words.
Maine Beer... I always think of when I go to Maine Beer Company's tasting room because they have this whole display of beer cans, and that's their uncles. And I'm trying to remember. It's one of their uncles who a beer is Mean Old Tom. I think it's Uncle Tom's beer can collection.
That's
Out
awesome.
there. I could be messing that up, but...
Well, I named my bar down in my basement, Mean Old Tom, after that beer, and I guess their uncle, because it was just... So the wood actually came from Fore River. A lot of the wood
No kidding.
over at Fore River is just amazing, beautiful. All of the wood is over there, and they have... They've like reclaimed trees that one of the owners actually had cut down throughout the city for his landscape. And we've got a bug incident going on here. Outdoor fun times. And they had an extra piece, so I took it down there, but it wasn't quite long enough. So I had to like use a planer, my knuckles and everything. I still have like a couple pieces where they're missing. So hence Mean Old Tom. And actually, Mean Old Tom, I had it when it was a trash can beer. When they took it over...
What's a trash can beer?
So they took it... I don't know if that's technically the name, but they took it over to Navarre, and it was like in a galvanized trash can. I don't know exactly like if it was like... It was so long ago. I don't know if there was like a mini keg inside a trash can full of ice or what it was, but it was like...
That would make more sense.
Yeah, but it was like in... Like it was on top of the bar, and it was in a trash can. It was a beautiful silver one.
We've come very far here in Maine.
We have, and it was just amazing to. I don't know. I love that beer.
That's a great Maine beer story right there.
It sure is.
Well,
Mean old
Tom.
Uncle Tom.
Not Uncle Tom, just
Tom.
Mean Old Tom. Yeah. It made me think when I first thought, because it was in a trash can, I thought it was like after like a old like Tomcat or whatever. Right. I was like, oh, I guess that. And then I found out the real story. I was like, oh, that's okay, too.
I think a lot of their beers are named after stuff where people like Lunch is named after a whale has a chunk taken out of it. That is
Really?
And they donate a portion of the proceeds from Lunch to support that whale.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
To the cetacean, rescue fund or something like that, because it's one of the ones that has a transponder on it or something so they can track it, but they call it Lunch because there's a bite out of one of its fin, and
My
they
guess,
assume
though,
it's
is
from a shark.
dinner isn't because... I think
I
dinner has to
agree.
be because it was lunch, right?
I believe so.
I'm waiting for them to make a breakfast beer. That way I can just have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like,
Amen.
you're right?
You get a good day.
Yeah, it would be a fantastic day.
I'm fond of saying it's 10 a.m. somewhere.
Exactly. Well, thank you so very much for joining us for this first birthday
First
party.
birthday party.
Happy birthday.
We should
Thank
have brought
you.
noisemakers.
We should have. We'll just clink glasses.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I think Maine should come up with its
Oh,
own
I
word
can't
for
finish
cheers.
that.
Do that.
No.
Oh, I agree. Whew. So spicy. Yeah. What would be a good Maine word?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't say it.
They raise
very
your
well.
glass and yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
My fake Maine accent's definitely improved since I've been here.
Oh yeah, my boyfriend has a great fake Maine accent. He's been here since the 70s. It's really good.
I didn't realize how bad the Maine accent was until I moved to Florida, and I had he was a really crappy boyfriend. But before I realized he was a crappy boyfriend, he called me Mander because all of my relatives called me that, and he heard it.
Well,
They dropped the A off the beginning and add an R
Yeah.
at the end.
So I had a friend, he's actually, their family comes from Maine, and his last name is Gamache, Gamache. And his older brother was teaching, so my friend's older brother, a couple years ahead of us, was teaching over in Japan and was teaching English, and he went back, he'd been over there, he went back prior to starting teaching, and one of the things he was tasked with doing was coming up with like the phonetic spelling of his name to teach the kids how to say his name properly. And so he asked his parents, like, well, how do you pronounce it? And they were like, I'd say it's kind of like Guhmarsh. And he was like, what? What do you mean? M-A-R. Like, yeah, it's like Gamache. 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 And like, what? Like, there's no R in our name. Mom and Dad, like, it just, his whole worldview was shattered in that moment where he's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, but Jay, the way you pronounce it is more like Gamache. And like, that's one of those weird colloquialisms, I guess.
And everything is the Ameses, the Walmarts, the Hannafords, the with an extra S on the end.
I've also noticed across. People add a T on the end of across. Yeah, if you go across, and it's like, I don't know. But it does. I geek out on accent stuff. Bill Bryson wrote this book called The Mother Tongue, where he looks at different accents around the United States, and super fascinating, at least to me. So I tried to convince my wife to read it. She's like, not. She's a voracious reader. Still wouldn't read it. No. Reads 3 books a week. Still couldn't do it.
Thank you so much to Sean for sitting down with Jane and I and celebrating our birthday and sharing so much amazingness about the Maine Brewers Guild. For our field notes, head over to greatbeeradventure.com/053. For those of you that have been with us since the very beginning, you are so freaking awesome, and I love you. I completely and totally mean it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. For those of you who have listened to even just one episode, thank you. It means so much to have folks support me and the beer scene in such an awesome way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You all are just wonderful. Join us next week for a short show where we look at another brewery here in New England. If you all are fabulous co-adventurers, would like to support the show, check out our Patreon page. For less than the cost of a beer, you can send us some love. Go to greatbeeradventure.com/support. If you want to see even more from our adventures, follow us on Instagram @GreatBeerAdventure. And be sure to subscribe to the show. That way, you won't miss a thing. Today's episode was produced by Frank Marvici of Marvici Media. Great Beer Adventure is part of the Great Pint Society. Cheers.